Pros and cons from AI. Now we're talking pros and cons, short form versus long form video. My name is Ant. I'm from Changer. We are joined by, let me get this right, I'll get my notes so I don't get anyone wrong with their jobs. Bryan Choo, who is the CEO and Chief Creative Officer of TSL Media, the Smart Local Media. Adrian Ming, he's the co-founder of HEPMIL Media. Jamie Lim, who is a local creator. Jamie, we've got here that you're from the Scribbled life, but I think it's more Jamie Lim, the personal brand. And then Kai Ng, the co-founder of Unfold Asia.
Yes, or our grandfather's story. Yeah.
Our grandfather's story.
Oh, Unfold Asia, yeah.
Which is probably what you're most well known for, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. In the interest of time, I won't get you to introduce yourselves. Just trust us. These are all very, very smart people who know what we're talking about. But we probably should define, we're talking about short form, long form. What does that mean? What is short form? What is long form? I'll have a crack. Let's get you to fill it in. But basically, long form video, the way I look at it, horizontal, few minutes to half an hour, like long form online content, typified by what we all think is YouTube, right? What OG YouTube is. And then short form, vertical video, 15 seconds, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, typified by TikTok. Everyone good with those definitions? What do you?
Yeah, I agree with that definition, but I do think that the definitions have changed slightly over time. So as people's attention spans have grown shorter, I feel the definitions also have changed a bit. Because right now, if a client thinks of maybe like even a 5-minute or 10-minute video, they consider it long form, and they consider something like 30 seconds to be short form.
Wild.
That's my take. Anyone else want to go for it?
Yep, we're good with that. I'm just loving that we've got we've got the alternating olive and olive. That was very stage directed too.
I think definitely. I think your definition is as per the audiences, the clients, or the different partners' interpretation. I think the shift towards just shorter formats have really drastically changed the game in terms of like content creation. And now what was considered short form back then when it comes to YouTube is considered long form. So I think the definition, like what Bryan has shared, is like just constantly evolving, and maybe in the future 1 minute is considered long form and 15 seconds is considered short form. So I think that definition might just kind of change along the way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I started in this industry almost 10 years ago, we were talking short form video, which is now long form. So yeah, and then just a quick whip around the room: creators or people creating content. Who's creating short form? Like who's focused on short form content? Come on, you own it then if you're in there. And like predominantly long form content creators, anyone? Yeah.
Only one?
One. Do you want to come on stage also to
Okay. I fear for humanity. Now you know where I stand. Now, okay, no, that's not true. So it clearly, it feels like short form is everything everywhere. Is that true? Like what sort of trends are we seeing? And let's go, Kai. Like what do you, is that the case?
I guess I would say no, like short form is not everything. Yeah, I mean like, both of them exist and I think a different space and an audience like watch them, I guess for different purposes at different times of the day and also I guess they watch different types of content. So for us like at Our Grandfather's Story, because we do a lot more documentary content, so YouTube long form videos like is a great space for us. Having the duration, the time to tell stories, like to flesh out stories, that's really advantageous. So one of our most popular series is called Can Ask Me, where we bring together people from all walks of life and ask them like tricky questions, and so that's, I guess long form is really, there's a space for that. And even myself, like, I watch YouTube like on my TV. Yeah, so it's like it really works. Yeah, so but there are times where I watch TikToks as well, but that's like during my commutes, right? Yeah, so it's really, I think, time and space, and there is a space for both to exist together. Yeah.
Jamie, as a creator, speaking for the creators, like you can represent that voice. Like, what are you seeing as like that is short form?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both are important, right? I mean, I personally like long form because I like to storytell, and I feel I have a bit more time, a bit more breathing space. Now, short form to me is a little bit unhealthy for the brain in terms of like dopamine hit, with Mr. Beast, like with retention editing, it's like throwing things at your face at every 3 seconds, and sometimes I'm just like, oh. But you know, it gets the if you have a good message to get across in a short time, yeah, I think short form is great as well. And you know, to Kairen's point on, I think it depends where you're watching it, right? Like I watch YouTube on my computer or on my TV, but if I'm on the toilet, for example, I'll be scrolling on like short form, right, on commutes. So it really depends, I think, on the individual consumer and where are they watching these things.
Love it. Short form's now in the toilet. Great. That was honest.
Sorry, can I say something for short form? So I do feel that there is so TSL is in quite a unique position because we produce a lot of short form and long form, and we can see the demand, you know, as both of them have articulated, the demand from both spectrums of clients and even audiences, right? So there definitely is a demand for long form content, and especially when you have complicated messages, right? And it is sometimes hard to convey a complicated client message if the average view time of a TikTok video is 3 seconds, for example, right? So that's when long form suddenly becomes very important. But short form is great for that burst sort of visibility and virality. And if I were to compare which is more popular with clients, it's 100% going to be shorts at the moment. Yeah, in the whole world, I feel even the platforms are all having this battle for domination in the short space. YouTube has also adjusted their algorithm massively to reward people who create shorts. So we used to be a traditionally long form on YouTube, but we pivoted. Now we make, you know, each of our channels, so we have 4 different channels on YouTube. Each of these channels make 20 shorts on YouTube every month, and these shorts get more views than our long form videos, which is very discouraging to us because it takes a long time to go and create these long form videos. And I would say it's also better quality content in that sense, you know, not just about dopamine hits non-stop, right? But unfortunately, the audiences seem to prefer and they want to digest this short content more because it's just more digestible.
Yeah, and so we want to, like, you sort of mentioned a bit of the pros there of shorts, and we want to dive into pros and cons of each. So let's start with short form and the pros and continue with that. When you've got a short, sharp message and something to get across, that works well. But Adrian, what about like the pros of short form for brands, like to leverage off what Bryan was saying? Like what's the benefit for brands in short form?
I will sing a different tune, right? So I'm definitely a supporter of short form like content. I mean, I came from the era of like longer form content, but you know, I think whether is it because of audiences' preferences or whether is it because of platform like TikTok that came along, I mean, I think it really kind of changed the game in terms of how people consume and how people create. And back then there were no tools, no platform to kind of showcase this form of storytelling. So I think now that, you know, TikTok, right, is a thriving platform that empowers like creators to be able to create short form content at such mass and such scale. I think it's a very exciting time for the entire media space. So, I mean, I think when it comes to the pros and cons of short form, right, I think like what Bryan has shared, you know, when it comes to, you know, including messaging, right, that's obviously very challenging because in a 1-minute video, how can you actually be able to weave in so many different messages? I do see it as actually a good thing, right? I think it makes for better marketers, right? Being very specific exactly about when you tap on short form content, what exactly is the same one message that you want to get across to the audience. Because I think in the past when there was longer format, it allows the maybe marketers and brands the luxury of just including paragraphs and paragraphs of, you know, different messages. And, you know, as much as we can advise them that, hey, you can't do that, right? You know, marketers being marketers, they will try to just include as much as they can. So I do think that, you know, short form just allows content creators to be a lot more focused when it comes to storytelling. I think it also makes for sharper marketers. Right now, they really need to pick and choose what do they want to communicate across to what audience, right? And using what kind of content and what kind of creators. Yeah.
So short form for brands, the benefit is that they get sharper on their messaging. What about like sponsoring and partnering with creators on short form? Like, what does that look like? What's the pro of that?
I think now, especially with short form content, right, there are a lot of creators who have like very, very different niche, right, very different lifestyle, very different personalities. I think that allows for brands to really be able to look at what is exactly their marketing message, right? Who is the target audience and who is the right creator to pick, and how can they break, you know, a 10 marketing objective like kind of campaign into like different bite sizes so that you can kind of still do a holistic campaign, but now you're able to strategize according to what kind of creators push out what kind of content and still have a holistic campaign. So I think that is the beauty of short form, you're able to kind of deploy at scale strategically, right, and be able to hit a mass audience, right, with a very specific kind of strategy involved.
And Jamie, that's from your lived experience as a creator, that's where brands are looking to invest, right, predominantly?
Yeah, I do feel a lot of the campaigns that I get are definitely more on short form. But I do struggle, I think, with what Ming was saying. It is sometimes tough to squish everything into 1 minute, especially when there are requirements that sometimes the client wants you to squeeze in a certain spiel or a certain thing that you have to include in. So sometimes it gets difficult to come across as organic as I would like it to be. But I think it always just comes down to what's the compromise, right? That you can deliver your message as authentically as you can and do justice for the brand as well. Yeah.
And Kai, the content that you guys create is much more a lot longer and lot more pacing. How do you feel about do you still see the positivity of using short form?
Oh yeah, of course. So we do long form, but we do short form as well. So and I think we do short form in multiple ways. So one is we do actually adapt our long form videos into short forms, and they do work as well because a good story is a good story, right? It's gonna hit the audience the same. People are gonna get it. One of our most popular stories was about Kumar. Yeah, so being like a parent, right? And that's probably one of our top hits on TikTok as well. So there's still a space for short form, and I think so at the start actually short form was really difficult for us, to be honest. TikTok, our grandfather story, TikTok documentaries, and TikTok were at the start, we didn't know how to do that. Yeah, because how do we tell documentary stories in TikTok? I think it was a challenge for the team. I think it really challenged us to push the boundaries and try to create different, stories for the audience. But I think in the end, we kind of managed to crack it. And today, we also tell some stories on TikTok. Original stories. Some of them are adapted. And like what Adrian said, I think the space has exploded, right? And you get to choose from so many forms of creators, different categories. Like today, we also have Nom, which is a food channel, and we produce food content on short form as well. Yeah, which is a great space because you can get a recipe video in a very short span of time, learn how to cook, which is what I'm trying to do for our audience. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I love short form too. Please, don't be mistaken.
pick a side, pick a team, Kai. Come on, man.
It's difficult.
Is it a truth that short form's easier? I mean, Kai, in your experience, has said no, but is that I'll throw this out to the panel. But do you think it's easier, or is that a fallacy?
I think both spaces are very competitive. If you ask me which is the more competitive space, I would say it's shorts. And that's because, so for example, on TikTok, right, about 34 million videos are being created daily. And if you create a video, you have to compete with that, right? Everyone wants to be on TikTok. I think brands also feel it's extremely important to be on TikTok, but brands also feel it's also very important to get the messaging out. And there's this balance that they have to go and tweak and find. And I feel that maybe sometimes some brands might struggle with finding that balance, which in the end results in the video not being authentic and not being shown to people, which is why creators then become extremely relevant, or creators, publishers, and so on, because they are able to create something authentic and still have that brand messaging inside.
What about frequency on short form? A lot of people think you have to create a lot of short form content to be relevant and to be served up. Is that true? And I've got to follow up on that.
I have a go at this. I just saw a video the other day on TikTok. Okay, my TikTok feed is basically all business advice and social media stuff. And it was this video saying that which studied the frequencies of the optimal number of times to be posting on all the different social media platforms. For TikTok, I believe it was about 2 videos a day. And after that, you experience diminishing returns. So that is the optimal. For Instagram, it was about 1 video. And The interesting part of that video was they said for Facebook, there was no decipherable pattern. It was just a complete mess in some sense. Their words, not mine. But yeah.
That's quotable. And is that sustainable? 2 videos a day? Short form?
It depends on how crazy you are or how passionate you are. So yeah, I mean, I do agree that, you know, when it comes to short form content on a platform like TikTok, right, frequency is extremely important, right? Because the bar has been raised. I mean, everybody, you know, especially through COVID, they had nothing better to do and they are just creating like tons of videos like a day, right? And tons of videos like a week. And now that is something that is expected of creators, right? To be able to produce at that kind of frequency and that kind of quality. I think that is why building a big ecosystem, a support network is important, because like what I've always shared, I mean, it makes me sound a bit like a dinosaur on social media. I mean, I've been doing it for 12 years. Right, when it comes to social media, it is a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? You can, you know, have that short burst, right? You can find that overnight fame, but to consistently do it year after year, right, it requires an ecosystem. I think that's what we're trying to build at HEPMIL as well, right? Ecosystem to really support creators, to support content producers, not just from a business point of view, but also from a creative point of view, right? Because if you're doing it alone, somewhere down the road, you are going to run dry of ideas, right? Unless, you know, you really, it's just one crazy person who's just able to think of ideas non-stop, or you can use ChatGPT. But having, I think, a support network is important to kind of sustain that kind of frequency, sustain that kind of like quality that you're hoping to serve to your audience. So I think that is the fun part, but also the challenging part, right? Being a creator in this particular day and age of social media.
Jamie, could you do 2 short form videos a day as a solo creator? Could you
Definitely
do it?
not. Yeah, I do struggle with the consistency bit, like especially as like a solo creator. Like you're like a 5-man team, right? Like you're the script writer, you're the production person, you're like the editor, you know, and you can definitely outsource parts of it. But I think finding that balance is difficult, and I feel like the skill set you need to learn for short form or long form, it can be quite different. Like for short form, you need to know like your hooks, your call to action, the way you write, the way you copyright has to be very specific, right? For long form, maybe you can like, I want to weave in this element, I want to take this nice shot, you know. So I really think it is a different type of skill set, and one is definitely not easier than the other. Yeah, it's. I've also tried to pivot to short form here and there, so just learning along the way, I guess. Yeah.
Let's flip the switch. Let's talk long form. Let's talk positivity and pros of long form. I'll go that with an open question, but like Kai, I'll probably put you in that camp. Like, what's the greatest like pro, the benefit that you see of creating longer form content?
Right. So for us, I guess it might be maybe slightly unique to us because we do a lot more stories. Yeah. So I think like a lot of stories, like they take a little bit more time to tell. We get to delve a little bit deeper into like people's personal lives. And you know what, I guess like looking at their lives in different aspects. Yeah. So I think for long form, I guess that it helps in that way. Yeah. So I think that's really one of the key advantages, especially with the kind of works that we are dealing with. Yeah, so I think that's really what works for us.
And Jamie, like you've got a preference for creating longer form personally as well from the creative experience. But are there other like and aside from the deeper, longer storytelling, are there other benefits that you see of creating longer form content?
I mean, I personally feel I engage more with or people who engage with me through long form. We become friends after that because I feel like because there's that longer time you spend with them, right? Often, and also this is how I feel about the creators that I chat with. I feel like I know them a little bit more, and when I remember their content, I remember them, right? And specifically when they release something, I will watch it because they released it. Compared to usually for short form, like I remember this person did something, I remember their face, but not quite their name and what really what they do. So that's the effect that I get, and through my interactions with my audience, I think that's kind of what I've gathered and what I enjoy.
Bryan, Adrian, Adrian, I don't know if I can get you to say anything positive about long form content, but we can see. Bryan, sorry.
I agree with Jamie in the sense that there is a lot more, I guess, loyalty from the viewers because of the retention time. That to me is the major pro of long form content. For example, our YouTube videos, you guys would be shocked to hear that our average view time is over 8 minutes. Completely ridiculous. Like no one believes that statistic, right? It's over 8 minutes for an average video that we put up, right? And like our average video on TikTok might be like 5 seconds, for example, or 10 seconds, and it's a huge difference. So it depends on what the client is seeking. If they have a sort of complicated message, for example, some of the work that we do is a lot of sentiment and narrative shifting. Maybe it is promoting awareness about race and religion more in a more, I guess, inclusive way in Singapore. That sort of messaging, you can never do it on Shorts. It's very difficult, right? But then we would start that dialogue on YouTube, and then it'll be like, we'll get different races from our cast, ask questions that they can't want to be answered, but they were always too afraid to ask. And it's the proper format for a conversation like that. So at the end of the day, I feel we will listen to what our clients want. And then because we have all these different offerings that we can give, if they want burst virality, we'll just do Shorts. Or if they want to work with influencers, we'll just use our KOL agency Extend, right? But if they want long form, then we would then use long form with that very high retention time.
Yeah, awesome. Adrian, is a short view equal to a long form view?
I mean, to be honest, that's definitely not. Yeah, I mean, it's quite clearly, shared by everybody else on the panel. I think with, long form, you're able to communicate more, right? So, in terms of the information, in terms of the value, in terms of the entertainment that you can deliver via a long form, is definitely a lot more than what a short form can actually deliver. So I mean, I'm not like a hater of long form. I watch Netflix, I watch my movies, right? It's just that I think, in this world where there is, with TikTok, with short form video being a thing right now, right? I think audiences, when it comes to their decision to watch a long form video, now you have to give them a lot more reasons to want to kind of click through and stay through for that 5, 8, 10 minutes, right? And that just means that the level of creativity, the level of value that you're providing, right, to the audiences must be a lot more convincing, right? And then I think that makes it harder, right, as compared to in the past. Whereas now, short form, where you're just kind of delivering instant value, instant gratification or whatsoever, the value to kind of be able to do that, right, it becomes a little bit easier. So yeah, I do think that long form has its value, right? It's just that the level of storytelling is kind of brought to another level. That not everybody can do that. It's not as accessible.
Yeah. And then, sorry, go, Bryan.
So I think to add on to Adrian's point about accessibility, like not everyone would want to watch long form. That's just the way it is. Like, for example, my wife never watches long form. Once she went to TikTok, she never went back, And I feel quite a lot of people are in that space because they just don't have the time, attention span, and therefore Shorts serve its purpose very well. I feel that generally the social media space is just very fragmented. You have people who are only on TikTok, or that's their primary platform. And you have some people who are still on Facebook, and that's their primary platform, and that's all right. But I guess that's the benefit of working with someone who, like a company which can give that holistic sort of service across all the different platforms. And that's what we do at TSL. You can do short form, long form, you can do podcasts, and so on. Yeah.
And you mentioned, you'll create a bunch of short form videos, Bryan, and they will get a lot more views than your long form, and that's somewhat disheartening because I assume what you're saying is they potentially took less effort or they're derived from the long form. But you say that's disheartening. Why? And how do you reconcile with that, or how do you overcome that?
I think it's very disheartening for our content teams because they pour their heart and soul into their craft, and I think this goes for a lot of creators also. Sometimes there will be this video where you put so much effort into, but that effort doesn't necessarily translate into results, which is something that we've learned about social media. It's not effort equals to results. It's really the markability is equals to results a lot of the times.
And then, I'm just jumping out of turn, but I was remembering a conversation we had the other day, Adrian, about brands and their investment in the space and how predominantly it's in short form video. But just dialing in of what ROI are brands looking for, and what are they get, and are they getting it? And what is it that they're getting when they are investing in short form?
I think with short form content, what I think brands are looking for is speed, right? It is impact, right? Because I think that is what short form is meant to do. That's what the space is really meant to do, where you're able to really churn out a piece of content, marketing a brand in a very, very short amount of time, right? I think what we can do, right, at HEPMIL is also we are being able to kind of do this at scale. Right, because to be able to kind of deploy 100 creators, 200 creators across 6 different markets is not something that is easily done by a brand or like an agency. Right, so I think that is where having strategic partners like that allow brands to kind of deploy creators, short form videos at speed and having impact in a very, very short amount of time. I think that's what short form can do. That maybe it's a little bit more challenging for long form, because long form, because of its nature, it naturally takes a little bit more time when it comes to the execution of things. Yeah, so I do think that is the beauty of short form, but the quantity, right, could also be a double-edged sword, right? Because now there are thousands of creators across the region. Like, how do you pick and choose? How do you coordinate? How do you strategize, right, an entire campaign around that? That has always been one of the early challenges when this entire space blew up, right? So I think that is where having partners like ourselves, HEPMIL, we really come in with the strategic, strategy, right, on how to coordinate a campaign like that and being able to deploy it at scales across markets. Yeah.
Super. We're running pretty late on time, but got a couple more to wrap it up. I'm going to make you all choose. You can only choose one for the rest of your life to create, short form or long form video. That's it. We're living in a black and white world in the future. What's it going to be, Bryan?
I'll choose long form because my personal preference. Yeah. But if it was to make money, probably shorts.
Good answer. I like it. Okay, yeah.
I'll choose 3-second short videos.
Jamie?
Oh, long form, forever and ever.
Long form, definitely.
Nice.
If marketers looking at short form videos, please come find us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
The business end of the panel down here, and the heart down that end. But very, very good. And then, what's the future of video lengths? We don't know, right? But if you had to guess, or you have to guess, I'll make you. But we're smart people. What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to get shorter and shorter? Is it fragmented? A world where everything happens? What do we?
I think you'll eventually reach a threshold when it cannot get any shorter, and perhaps that threshold is approaching. Because these videos are already very short now. But I think the future of maybe content creation is customization. So, for example, and especially with AI doing all the work behind the scenes. I don't know if this is too forward-looking, but essentially, when I listen to music now, I don't even listen to normal music. I use AI to create my own songs, and then I put that as a playlist. Because right now there's that technology already, which can actually create things to your music to your specific liking, and that is also going to happen to content eventually, I feel. But this may be 5 years, I don't know, 5 years down the road maybe.
Well, there's a bunch of musicians downstairs crying right now, but yep. And where's it going? That's fascinating, by the way.
Yeah, like what Bryan said, I don't know how much shorter can it get. How are you able to deliver any kind of content in 10 seconds? Maybe Vine of the past managed to do so. But I think one thing that I do notice and I do see coming again, right, is this whole democratization of content. I think every maybe 5 to 7 years, there's gonna be the next social media, the next TikTok that comes about to disrupt this entire game altogether. And we have seen it happen, through the history of social media with Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, right, Clubhouse when it was during COVID, where everybody became a person with opinion on things. I think why it primarily would happen is because the barriers to entry for creators, right? Even a platform like TikTok right now today, it becomes higher and higher, right? People get more resources, they get more following, and if I'm just a new creator starting out tomorrow, would I get that kind of exponential growth that I could have possibly gotten 3 years ago? Probably not. Right, so if there's going to be a next platform that offer that kind of opportunity, right, that kind of tools, right, and the right kind of content that goes out, I do see a shift, right? People will just shift. Right? I think that is what I foresee. I don't know what it is going to be, but I think that is something that can be anticipated to happen for sure. Yeah.
Super. Jamie, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think just being fluid, being able to know both, I definitely think will benefit me as a creator. Like I of course I love long form, but I also want to dabble in short form. Like I think it really is a balance. Like short form can bring such good discoverability, right? But if you want to dive deeper into it, like I can sit in like a 1.5 hour long podcast and I'm very happy to do it. But it really boils down to the individual consumer and what they enjoy. Yeah.
Kai, you get the final word.
Okay.
No pressure.
I don't think it can get any shorter, I guess. Yeah, I think it's already really short. I guess for me, the way I think about it is that the next platform that comes up, it's just probably a different experience. Yeah, so I think I use the experience as quite, I guess, a broad term, because I don't think it's just about the duration. I think it's also about how you interact with it. Yeah, so that eventually is going to change like the content. Yeah, so I don't think it's just purely about like duration, I guess. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. On that note, that's our time, but thank you very much. Thanks, Bryan, Adrian, Jamie, Kai. Thank you so much for your time.